The dreaded 1-year anniversary after D-Day. Yeah, it's tough. It's pretty horrible, and I think many of us fear it because we know that that's going to be really challenging. And it is challenging, and there's a psychological reason behind that too. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. So 12 months after D-Day is really kind of a traumatic time for us. It actually re-triggers a lot of our PTSD, and here's why. PTSD in itself is kind of the after effect of trauma, if you will. When something traumatic happens to us, there are certain things that imprint on our brain, and the part of our brain that manages our emotional responses, especially fear. It's our fight or flight center, if you will. So when something traumatic happens, it's almost like a really deep imprint into our long-term memory. Things like dates, sometimes just a visual picture of what was happening at the time, someone's facial expression, a time, what you were wearing. I mean, the strangest things can be imprinted. But when it comes to when we find out about the affair, what's been imprinted are lots of aspects of that moment. We remember that date. Now, not everybody does. I've learned through experience, either working with clients or some folks in my Facebook group, I've learned very clearly that some people have made it a point to just ignore that date and pretend like it doesn't exist. And that way they don't have to worry about it. And that's fine, but for most of us, we have a very clear memory of the date of our D-Day, okay? And that's the day we found out about the affair. So 12 months later, when that anniversary rolls around, most of us around the 11th month begin to feel anxious. Now, sometimes we don't understand why. We're like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm starting to really be triggered suddenly, or I'm really feeling sad, or I'm feeling down, or it's becoming more difficult to get a good night's sleep, or there are things that start happening and they can start in little intervals. And then once we get closer, it's like, oh, that date is coming around. Uh-oh, what am I going to do? Which then causes what? More anxiety, because then we're dreading it. We're like, oh, well, you know, great. So, you know, should I say something to him about it? Is he going to remember? You know, should I take the day off of work? What should I do? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about ways in which we can manage that anniversary as it rolls around. And that way we can get through it, because really our grief is re-triggered, our PTSD is re-triggered, and it may be really challenging for us emotionally between months 11 and 13 after D-Day. So it does get better, I promise it does get better, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But let's talk a little bit about how to manage this. Some of us also have other events that are around that day, like I just celebrated my birthday, for instance, and D-Day was 2 weeks after my birthday, or we just had our wedding anniversary and D-Day's the day after, or whatever. So sometimes there's other stuff, and that kind of makes it a little more challenging. But let's take it as what it is, 12 months after the day we found out about the affair. So we're going to go with the first D-Day, because I know some of us have had multiples, but let's just take this on a general note. So after the first D-Day, we get around month 11. Once we realize that date is coming and we start to feel a bit of the emotions coming up and the doubts coming up, and this is pretty common too, 12 months later, we really start spiraling in the opposite direction. And here's why. We start feeling and thinking things like, it's been 12 months, we should be a lot further down the road by now. We get pulled back more to the I can't believe he did this phase, where we're like, I can't believe he would do this to me. If he really loved me, he never would have done this to me. Things of that nature. We may start feeling as though we are back in depression even, where we just want to sleep all the time, or we don't want to eat anything. We might start having nightmares again. If we had them before, maybe we're having nightmares again because our subconscious is pulling all of this stuff up. So all of this kind of starts creeping in around month 11, or it can. Now I want to be clear, not everybody experiences all this. This is just many of us do. Okay, so if you don't experience this, don't let this stress you out. Okay, it's okay if you didn't. Good for you if it didn't. But for many of us, that's kind of our trail. We start having these things happening. We start feeling kind of like we did early on. We start having the nightmares. Maybe we're just don't really feel like doing anything, or maybe we're starting to talk about the affair more often. We had gotten where we weren't really bringing it up anymore, and now all of a sudden we're bringing it up again. Maybe we go back and start stalking their social media pages again. When we feel these urges, it's important we realize what's happening. Our PTSD, it is what it is, and it's not evil. It's not like out to get us. But really what it is an imprint of the past. It's a past trauma that is imprinted in our brain. And because it's there to protect us from a future trauma, that's really what it is. It's like, okay, we got to be on high alert. That's why we feel like we're in fight or flight mode all the time early on, right? It's because our PTSD is always on the lookout. Is that rug going to get snatched out from under me again? So it's natural for when our PTSD is re-triggered to want to pull us back to that past and go, remember what happened so it doesn't happen again. You got to keep yourself safe. Come on, come on, come on. Again, the fight or flight mode is in our DNA. It's from back when we were cave people and we had to escape, the woolly mammoth or the saber-toothed tiger. It's what gives us that adrenaline to get out of harm's way. And it's imprints in our mind so that we keep ourselves safe. So what PTSD does is it reminds you that you're not safe and you've got to protect yourself and be careful. It's the fear center of our brain. So for us who've been traumatized and who actually have PTSD, what's happening during that month 11 is that it's trying to tell us we're back in danger when we're not. It's trying to tell us we're back in danger when we're not. Okay? So think about it in this way. When we start to go, I need to check her social media and make sure, if our husband, let's say, has been doing everything right, we have access to all of his devices. There has been no contact that we know of between him and the affair partner. He has been really working hard. He's been going to counseling and all this. And then suddenly, month 11, we decide we need to go check her Facebook page. We need to go stalk her. So we need to create a fake Facebook account because we have her blocked and we need to get up in there and figure out what's going on. The reason we're feeling that is that suddenly that fear is being triggered as if suddenly we are unsafe. So one way to manage that when you start to feel that around month 11, month 12, is to keep reminding yourself, I am safe. I am safe. That is not my current circumstances anymore. I am safe. My circumstances right now are safe. I am fine. You have to keep telling your brain to calm down. It's okay. Take a chill pill. You're good. Okay. We do not need to be anxiety ridden right now. We're fine. Okay. So that's one way to manage it. When those triggers start to take place, that's one way to manage it. It may not be a bad idea to let your husband know what's going on. That's another thing you can do. If you are struggling and you're wondering to yourself, I don't know if I can get through this without telling him because he's going to notice I'm upset. He's going to notice I'm sad, or what if I cry or whatever. Give him a heads up. Just say, hey, you may not be aware, but these anniversaries can be really challenging and I'm already feeling the emotions stirring, and I just want you to know it's not you. I know you're doing everything you can do on your end. Please be patient with me. I'll do the best I can, but I may need to talk to you. I may need you to just listen and be there and give me the assurances I need to get through this. Totally acceptable. And hopefully you feel safe enough doing that with your husband at this point. Also, I wouldn't. If you have some big work thing that you can get out of, you may want to get out of it if it's right on the day of the anniversary. If you and your husband had something romantic planned, I don't know. I mean, maybe you want to reconsider choosing a different date, or maybe that's your plan to go through this process with your husband away together somewhere. Sometimes that is very effective. Just be proactive. Be proactive. Try to make decisions that would be best for you. Only you know you and how you respond to things and how you manage your pain and how you manage your emotions best. So just do whatever is best for you. Again, this is normal. If you're watching this and you fall within that range of 11 to 13 months, there is nothing at all wrong with you. If you are struggling and you feel like you've taken 100 steps backwards, I promise you, you haven't. You're not going backwards. Your PTSD is trying to pull you backwards. You're just feeling the feels right now. Your brain is trying to mimic where you were because that's what PTSD is. But you will get beyond this and you will go back to where you were. You have not gone backwards. You've just paused for a moment. But once you feel good, once you're back to where you were, that's when you got to keep moving forward. Okay, get beyond that 12, 13-month period and keep going. Forward momentum is your best friend. Don't get stuck in this anniversary scenario. Keep moving forward. All right, if that is you and you're in there between 11 and 13 months, I'm sorry. But it gets better, I promise. Every year after that, as long as you and your husband are keeping on, moving forward, he continues to keep doing the right things. You have set your boundaries and held them firm. You have done your work. He has done his work. It gets better. So this is not a life sentence, I promise. That first one, though, it's a doozy. Be kind to yourself. Be loving to yourself. Give yourself the space you need to get through that anniversary. I hope that you have found this particular video helpful. If you did, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss future videos, and check out my other videos as well. I've got some free stuff listed below, so make sure you click both of those links. And if you have not joined our Facebook group yet, make sure you join that too. And if you do, I'll see you there.